Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel on this beautiful but high pollen count day. So excuse the look of a man who appears to be having some sort of emotional breakdown. But I am back, and thanks to CJ Bull Suzuki in Norwich, with a new bike for me to give you my opinion on. The V-Strom 800 DE. Now I think this bike doesn't quite get the props it deserves, so hopefully I can do that for you today. So first impressions, and with that, the styling. Now my instinct obviously is to compare this to the 650 version that came out in the early 2000s, which has great reviews as a bike. Everyone loves to ride it, but that 650 version was one real ugly duckling. But this thing, wow, look at it. I love the beak, real enduro style, foot protectors, and it's got a real beefy, angular style to it. Yeah, great. The vertically stacked headlights, not quite my style, but they do give it a more enduro look. But overall, in bikes, I prefer them right and left. And some things that may be missing on this version are, you might want a bigger windscreen. There was a bit of wind blast, although this one appears it can be unbolted and lifted up. And I think just to fill the gap down here, some engine bars really just finish it off. And also on the styling front, as you can see, I'm not really one to wear high vis, but the V-Strom 800 DE in this colour scheme, I think looks pretty great. Car drivers were just getting out of my way. They might have thought I was police. Now what I have here, as I've mentioned, is the DE version opposed to the RE version. The RE version is a lot more road biased. The DE is a lot more of an enduro, of an adventure bike, where you could, if you had the skills, which I don't, you could take this off-road and do jumps and skids and all that. It's possible. But this means all the additional features the DE does have over the RE really start to make sense. And these include a larger 19-inch spoked front wheel. The rear wheel is obviously also spoked. A bash plate to take those hits if you needed. Didn't think that would be plastic though. And of course, fully adjustable suspension front and back. Preload is probably done here just by a twist of a knob. Love that. You might be thinking, who do you think I am? I'm not going to take this bike off-road. Yeah, I had the same thought. And I didn't take it off-road, but what I did take it on was some really rough, broken, bumpy tarmac. And this thing, and I was going pretty quick, I'll be honest, just skipped along those bumps. The suspension soaked up every little nook and cranny. Wasn't worried, I felt completely secure, and it was very comfortable. My pelvis was not turned to dust, nor did I feel like I was going to be chucked off into a field. Now let me talk to you a little bit about the overall cornering ability of this bike. Obviously I did not take it off-road, so I cannot speak to that. But on the road, once the tyres were warmed up and the roads are dried out, this thing makes you feel like you're leaning over like an absolute legend. Now I think that's because it's so tall. Such a tall bike means that the lean angle, it feels like it's amplified based on where your head is. So based on sensation and what you want from a bike in terms of just fun factor, it really delivers. And these huge wide handlebars give you lots of leverage in terms of slow speed riding through traffic or even around a car park like this. Now let's talk about the engine of this bike. I mean, what is that? Our V-Stroms in the past have all had V twin engines, hence the name V-Strom. So they kept the V-Strom name, but this is no longer a V-twin, it is a parallel twin. So this one has 776cc and develops 83 horsepower and 57 foot-pounds of torque. And what's great, all that power seems to happen right in the mid-range between 3 and 7-ish. So it makes it really usable, especially on long tours where that's where you spend most of your time. Below 3,000 RPM, it's still a little choppy, but what bike isn't at that low RPM? Bikes are meant to be revved. Right at its top end, around 9,000–10,000 RPM, the power does seem to peter out, but that's not what this bike is for. If you want a top-end rush from a bike, you want a super bike. That's not this. And what this engine also has is a cross balancer, apparently to make it a lot more smooth. Do I know what that is or how it works? No, I do not. But what I can tell you is that I've had a bit of a bugbear with parallel twins in the past. I found them to be very juddery, shaky, and the opposite of smooth. Has this cross balancer worked? I say it has. Now let's talk about tech and rider aids. This has, on screen, you can see here, traction control. On the other side is ABS. And in the middle is power settings. Suzuki have told me the max power stays the same, but what it does is it adjusts the delivery of the power on the throttle. So max settings will make it super aggressive, and obviously you back it off, the throttle will be less snatchy. I had it on the mid and that was perfect. And like a lot of modern bikes now, this bike has a bi-directional quick shifter, so you can flick up and down the gearbox without using the clutch at all. Recently I drove a Honda and I felt that bi-directional quick shifter was a little better, but it was ample, and I generally use the clutch anyway. So let's finish up with price, competition, and would I get this bike? For this more enduro version, you're looking at £10,700 starting price before any additional bits. Obviously, This class of bike is not a cheap, it's not a budget class of bike. And the bikes I feel this bike was built directly to compete with is the BMW F850 GS, the Honda Africa Twin, and the Triumph Tiger 900, all of which roughly are the same price. It's worth looking into them. And would I get one? Yes, if I was not so vertically challenged. This is a tall bike, built with additional ground clearance for clearing rocks and logs and all that. It's not quite what I need in my life, more ground clearance. I can barely touch the ground. Luckily, I'm confident enough to it's okay. But you need to test this bike and see if it fits you. It's a tall, actually not that heavy, but tall bike. Thank you so much again for watching, and also thank you to CJ Bull Suzuki in Norwich. If you're in the East Anglia area, you're looking to get a Suzuki or a Honda, they have plenty of bikes for you. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.